Module 4 has to do with hybrid learning. A hybrid course uses a variety of delivery systems in order to both meet course needs as well as social outcomes. The course can have any type of combination of face-to-face instruction, asynchronous discussion, where students are able to check and respond to different questions or assignments on their own time schedule, as well as synchronous environments where the students and teachers are being able to meet online and at the same time. The syllabus is the most important thing that you're going to be creating in any class, and it's very important, especially in a hybrid learning class, that the syllabus sets forth student expectations. You are so tied to the needs of the students through what is defined in the syllabus. And so you need to make sure that you are discussing exactly what the outcomes are, how students will be assessed in the class, when they need to be online, and then of course when you will be available for their reaching in the online environment as well. You want to make sure that you're creating weekly checklists for students to make sure that there is a smooth delivery of instruction and that their workload is manageable. It is vital that you create a weekly list of what is due, and then understand that within a hybrid course, more structure is needed in a hybrid or online course because students are on their own, learning at their own pace. You want to work to create an organized and consistent course site so that students can find face-to-face interactions and online materials quickly and easily within the site. Make sure to use a variety of assignment techniques such as individual submission, group work discussion, groups, so that you'll be able to maximize the online learning environment. And of course, you always want to try to tie face-to-face interactions and online interactions to grades as a further motivation for student work. Be very careful about how many synchronous environments you have, but do include a small number of synchronous environments to make sure that students have access to you in a virtual office hour type environment. Materials that will really help students understand and comprehend how to use the technology as well as how to manage their own time will be very important as they get used to the hybrid schedule. And then, of course, make sure to provide an in-class orientation to the site itself so that they'll have a firm understanding of what's expected of them and how to use the various media that you'll be using in your course. All assignments and, of course, other course expectations must be as explicit as possible from the very beginning and included in the syllabus. Yes, changes will occur, but make sure that it is as explicit as possible in the syllabus. A good rule of thumb is an ancient motto that says, "Do not give instructions that are easily understood. Only give instructions that cannot be misunderstood." The schedule of in-class and online work needs to be presented, and due dates are very explicitly stated as well as repeated. Online feedback needs to be given frequently, specifically at the end of either each module or week, depending on how this course is set up. Make sure that you stay current and engaged with what's going on in the courses, and that you are reading and responding to all student postings constantly. Provide students with resources that they can go and seek live help as needed. And of course, make sure that you're constantly evaluating the effectiveness of the course by asking students for feedback. How is it going? What are we needing to do differently? How can we improve this, both in the rest of the course as well as in future course offerings? Really try to avoid covering too much material and giving too much work. Although you do want to provide opportunities for them to grow in their understanding of both material as well as the skills that they are going to be working on, just make sure to understand that online activities do take longer than you would think. Really maximize time in face-to-face environments of a hybrid class so that all activities are focused on interactions between the faculty and between each other. Watch out for using synchronous environments too often in the digital world. Really avoid running to a let's meet type of a solution. You want to force them to really try to problem solve on their own and get some of the work, either some of their answers from their questions on their own or from peers, and make them work a little bit to get the answers that they're seeking. Avoid distributing handouts during the face-to-face environments, because you want to make sure that these things are handed out digitally and that they're electronically available on your course site. Any and all changes that need to be made in the course structure should be made no less than 2 weeks prior to the due date. Be very cautious about overuse of emails. Discussion boards provide a permanent solution because students can either learn from other posts, or in case of a private communication, you will have constant access to that material should the need arise to use in a different situation. Student behaviors need to be monitored, and it would be wise to go through on at the beginning of courses to check for adequate understanding of how the hardware, software, and websites will be used. Look to create opportunities and support for interactions between instructors and students. And then, of course, really try to actively participate as a student in all online activities. Students should be heavily involved with writing and interaction in the WebEx courses, and then students need to use a variety of communication techniques in order to maximize the online learning. Clear and adequate guidance must be provided. We're wanting to really try to create as smooth an environment as possible for students to feel comfortable learning. You want to make sure that you are constantly checking to see if there are problems within the class or things that are going well, and then use a variety of communication techniques to make sure that the students feel like they're well taken care of. Time for student interactions will be needed at a higher and increased rate. You need to make sure that you are very clear about cheating and plagiarism, of course, and that you are creating environments so that they have an understanding of what is meant by those different online problems. Make sure that should you get a question that is something that all students would have a need for, that you are forwarding these to all students so that they can have access to the same responses that you give. Seek from your department a reduced load and increased support as you develop these course materials, as most of them will be done for the first time. Students in a hybrid environment need continuous, frequent support and feedback. Make sure that you are really watching and help to coach and facilitate as the students work and to construct their knowledge. And be very, very careful about overly negative comments, and make sure that they are done privately. And if the tonality of the message is something to be cared for, make sure that you do it by phone. Within the learning environment, you want to make sure to create activities that provide an effective framework for online learning. Check for smaller class sizes as much as possible so that the faculty member has the appropriate time to be able to answer any and all questions to each of the students. Really try to stress flexibility and deadlines so that students can feel motivated, that you can adhere to a schedule that takes into consideration possibilities of technical problems and does create opportunities for social interactions. The learning environment needs to be well organized, and it needs to be safe, nurturing, and welcoming for students to come and get the material that they need. Problem-solving situations should be in a realistic context so that they can place their learning in a real-world environment. The learning environment needs to provide opportunities so that students can ask questions and so that the students can get accurate checks for understanding. Opportunities should be provided for students to collaboratively construct knowledge, and that students can articulate their thinking as well as revise their thinking should they have an inaccuracy of understanding, or should their understanding simply develop over time. The learning environment needs to make sure that there is equity in all learning environments, both for gender differences as well as learning styles and individuals with barriers to participation and communication. At the end of the course, allow time for yourself so that you can reflect back on what went well, what needs to change. Make sure that as you work within your learning environment that you're including light-hearted exercises at the very beginning, icebreakers, so to speak, so that students can get to know one another. And then that all access to all materials and all conversation strains are provided to everyone. Students do need to learn how to control their online learning and how to organize their material in a way that best fits their needs. But they also need discussion forums so that they can ask questions and receive feedback.